Today on Notsam Wrestling, Cody Rhodes slaps back, WWE sells the ring, AEW is on a roll, and the Hall of Fame fills up fast. This is Notsam Wrestling. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. What a week it's been. What a week I'm sure it will be. I hope by now that if you've made plans to be in Philadelphia for Wrestlemania, that you're getting there in time for the big show Wednesday night. Live Notsam Wrestling at the Helium Comedy Club in Philadelphia. That's 8 p.m. You can go to notsam.com, click the tickets link to get tickets. That show is already starting to fill out. Plans are starting to get made, and that snowball effect is starting to go down. So be there live. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic show. And I'll tell you what else was an absolutely fantastic show. Especially the ending. For me, was SmackDown this week. SmackDown was so good that we jumped on the Notsam Wrestling YouTube channel and did a live stream right after it. Because it's not so much that it was like an earth-shatteringly big news-making event. It was just a thing that got you feeling. It was just a thing that got you fired up. The match, it's official because it's not one of the 3 rules of Notsam Wrestling, but a rule that we abide by on Notsam Wrestling is matches aren't official until there's a graphic, but once there's a graphic, it's official. We never saw a graphic for The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Therefore, I can't tell you with any semblance of knowledge that was ever actually going to be the match. Maybe it was. But from my perspective, I never saw that graphic. What I did see was immediately after the kickoff press event in Las Vegas, when the stare down happened and when Cody Rhodes said, "I'm coming to WrestleMania and I'm coming for Roman Reigns," the graphic went up. Triple H posted the graphic right away. Green background, Philadelphia, WrestleMania XL, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. And immediately after SmackDown went off the air, the graphic went up across social media. The tag team match announced. Night 2, WrestleMania Sunday. The main event, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Night 1, WrestleMania Saturday. The main event is The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. And, people have brought up an interesting question. And I guess they haven't specifically said that that's the main event, but they've described the Roman Reigns title match as the big title match, right? That's clearly going to be the main event. Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. The winner of the Royal Rumble, main event's WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, main event. The Rock has described this tag team match as the biggest tag team match in the history of WWE. I don't see how that's not a main event. When we talk about WrestleManias, we talk about the 2-night WrestleMania as having 2 main events, and people are fine with that. I've been saying for a year that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens main evented WrestleMania, and nobody has clapped back on that whatsoever. Does this mean that Cody Rhodes is now getting 2 WrestleMania main events? Does this mean that Roman Reigns is getting an additional WrestleMania main event? Meaning, between WrestleMania 39 and WrestleMania 40, that's 3 main events for Cody Rhodes and 3 main events for Roman Reigns. I think it's going to get a little wonky when you start looking at the record books. And if you're a big nerd like me, you're going to be looking at the record books. But it is official, and I believe that it's the stipulation that really makes that tag match. I think that if the stipulation didn't exist, then it would have felt like, oh, we had a plan, we changed that plan, and we still want to get The Rock on the show. But when that stipulation exists, all of a sudden, not only does the match make sense, but the whole story that got us to the match makes sense from the beginning. Like, you can retell the story. And maybe it will continue to make sense because theoretically, we needed this match to make any sort of semblance of logic as to why Seth Rollins was involved at all. And I think that they're using that because you're going like, at least The Rock, Cody Rhodes, and Roman Reigns while Cody and Roman are involved in the two matches, ultimately, Cody and Roman's focus is encompassed by both of those matches. Seth Rollins has this tag match that he's not really related to, although he's glommed onto it. And then at the same time has a title defense that has nothing to do, well, I guess in an ancillary way it has to do with this match, because when you talk about Drew McIntyre's heel turn, ultimately it's predicated upon what the Bloodline did to him. So the Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins story has Bloodline in the foundation of it, but that's only the foundation. Realistically, Drew McIntyre is going to Philadelphia with only one thing on his mind, and Seth Rollins is too, and it's not Drew McIntyre. And I think that we saw that play out a little bit on Monday Night Raw, which I loved. It's those little details that I love. When Seth Rollins runs to the ring to help Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso, and he runs right past Drew McIntyre as if Drew McIntyre isn't even there. And the way Seth Rollins talks, it's like, look, I understand that me defending the world title against you at WrestleMania is a big deal, but nothing's a bigger deal than stopping the Bloodline. To Drew, it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then I'll just go ahead and take that title off of you. Because it was really interesting in the SmackDown segment, which I would like to officially give kudos to the WWE's production team. Because the fact that they kept that segment on time at all, the fact that we got that slap before the show went off the air is an absolute miracle. Because there is no keeping SmackDown on the air longer. There is no overrun with SmackDown. When it's time to go, it's time to go. And so you had to have people all over that ring queuing all the participants without distracting from the television product. And if you're watching the show on TV, you saw nothing. You didn't see the wrestlers involved looking off screen. You didn't catch anybody, that thought they were off camera but weren't off camera, giving them the wrap-up sign or anything. Nothing to the TV audience. And the fact that they got that smack in, I was so relieved, because when that copyright came up at the end of SmackDown and they still hadn't really resolved it, I went, oh no, not again. And if this happens, we got to talk about the industry as a whole, because on AEW pay-per-view, they got to cut the show before Sting is able to give his retirement speech. And on SmackDown now, they got to cut the show before this segment that has basically been being built to since that press conference. We're finally getting it, and it's going to go, oh, he slapped him. That's how I was. Oh, my God, he slapped him. Because The Rock just hit him with that line of all lines. Your sibling, 20 years older than you, right? You know why? Because you were a mistake. Oh, The Rock didn't have to know Dusty Rhodes to know that. All he had to do was some math. And then Cody Rhodes. And it all, like, yeah, he's slapping The Rock because The Rock said so. And look, there's multiple layers here, right? Cody Rhodes is slapping The Rock because The Rock insulted him. Yes. Cody Rhodes is also slapping The Rock because he said he was going to put his hands on The Rock. He owed The Rock a slap. The Rock slapped Cody Rhodes in his mouth, and Cody said, you put your hands on me, now I'm going to put my hands on you. I will hit you back. He kept saying, I will hit you back. And he allowed The Rock to speak, but The Rock gave him a reason. What was that reason? Well, what did The Rock do right before Cody slapped him? The Rock spoke ill of Cody's family. Why did The Rock slap Cody? Because Cody spoke ill of The Rock's family. The Rock did exactly what he said Cody shouldn't have done to him, to Cody. And what did he get? The exact same response. Seeing the back and forth on both these teams throughout that whole segment, it wasn't just that, right? The climax of that segment was such a mirror of the climax of the press conference segment. Ends with a slap after insulting, or a perceived insult, to family members. But even as it was going on, when in the beginning of it, when Cody and Seth are talking, And Cody goes, do you even have the authority to put that stipulation on a match? Because last I checked, you acknowledge Roman Reigns as your tribal chief. And everybody goes, oh. And then the segment goes on, and it goes on, and it goes on. And Seth Rollins goes, we accept. He comes at Dwayne. When he hit The Rock with the midlife crisis line, I was like, woof. Ooh, Mr. Midlife Crisis, woof. Woof, that was a good one. That was a good one. You're getting up there, and you've decided to relive your glory days. Well, we're here having our time. Not going to happen on my watch. And Seth is legit. You know, that's been a rallying cry for Seth Rollins for a long time, both on the show and off the show when he's doing interviews. So I thought that was a great line, but when Seth Rollins accepted and Roman Reigns immediately retorted with, you're going to let this guy speak for you? So on one end, Cody is being like, Rock, you're going to acknowledge Roman Reigns? And then Roman Reigns is going, Seth, Cody, you're going to let Seth speak for you? It's amazing, you know? What's Cody doing? Looking at The Rock going, I don't know about this guy. What's Roman doing? Looking at Seth going, I don't know about this guy. And who's the rivalry between? Cody and Roman. I love it. It feels like there's a lot of thought being put into that stuff. And yeah, the timing of it could not have been better. I loved that they got that slap on the air and got that reaction to it too. You know, there's a still going around because everybody's trying to go frame by frame for all these segments to figure out what's really going on. And I love that. I think that's the way we should be. I think that if we're doing that, it tells the powers that be that we're expecting a heightened level of storytelling. We're going frame by frame. So the fact that we're going to all the trouble of looking for every detail means that you as the storytellers should be going to the trouble of making sure you're putting stuff into every detail. And I feel like that relationship right now is being met, that both sides are living up to their end of the bargain. People were going through frame by frame, and there were those that noticed that in the shot of Cody slapping The Rock, and it's such a brilliant freeze frame because The Rock looks like he's getting slapped for real. And Cody looks like he is slapping him for real. Even when you freeze frame it, it doesn't look like any cooperation whatsoever. It looks like a hard slap across the face from one man to another. And in that freeze frame, Roman Reigns is laughing. And people went, see, there's more clues going on here. Roman Reigns is laughing. Why is he laughing? Because no. That takes the freeze frame out of the context. The context of that whole segment was Roman was laughing because The Rock said that Cody was a mistake. Roman looked up, realized The Rock had been slapped, and then completely changed his expression. So that freeze frame does not hold up in the Sam Roberts court of professional wrestling. But what I think we do have to talk about is all the scenarios that are now coming out of this and what it all could mean. I felt like when I came to you last week, I had a pretty good understanding. And I said it, and I made a clip of it. I did everything. That eventually Rock and Roman will split over the course of time. That's the long game. But at WrestleMania, Seth turns on Cody. But after I sat with this segment, and you felt the way the audience responded to Cody and Seth and Rock and Roman, the only thing that is stopping me from going all the way to the other side on what I initially said I could see happening is that I can't see the title getting taken off Roman. I can't. I'm trying to. It makes sense that it would. I can't see it happening. And I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm saying I can't see it happening. Because there is this version of the story where you don't have a turn. You don't have a big thing. Like, what if we go to WrestleMania 40, the showcase of the Immortals, the biggest WrestleMania of all time, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we go into that match under bloodline rules, and Cody Rhodes is able to beat Roman Reigns, and they don't have some weird Avengers Endgame thing. They don't, the idea that every single person comes out that the bloodline has ever wronged and helps Cody Rhodes, you don't need all that. What if Cody is just able to win? Cody stops the Solo Sikoa interference. Cody lays out The Rock, and then Cody beats Roman Reigns. And then Cody holds the title, and Seth Rollins comes out and hugs Cody Rhodes. And the two of them raise their arms up in the air because they've conquered the beast. What if, this is sounding crazy now, we just get to WrestleMania and the good guys win? You know what would happen? That last scene in Willy Wonka, when Willy Wonka looks at Charlie, the original Willy Wonka movie with Gene Wilder, and he goes, "Be careful, Charlie. You know what happened to the man who got everything he ever wished for?" And Charlie says, "What?" And Willie says, "He lived happily ever after." What if at the end of WrestleMania 40, and it's so funny, because if you look at every WrestleMania, you're basically guaranteed a happy ending. WrestleMania 1, the good guys won. WrestleMania 2, Hogan. WrestleMania 3, Hogan. WrestleMania 4, Macho Man, but Hogan was there. WrestleMania 5, Hogan. 6, Hogan. 7, oh, I'm sorry, that was Warrior technically, but 7, I'm sorry, there was an alert there. Hogan. 8, Hogan. 9, Hogan. 10, Brett. We can keep going. 11, Lawrence Taylor, everybody's favorite wrestler. 12, HBK. 13, Undertaker. 14, Austin. 15, Austin. We can keep going. Technically, you get to 17, and I guess Austin turns heel, but nobody really took that terribly seriously. 18, Hunter. Rock beats 20. I don't remember what happened. 21. It goes on and on. It's like good guys win at WrestleMania. WrestleMania ends with a happy ending. 30, Daniel Bryan. 35. I guess Kofi Kingston didn't end it. Becky Lynch. You had Kofi Kingston, and it's like, well, we gave you that moment. We're also going to give you Becky Lynch at the end of 35. We're going to give you Kofi Mania, and we're going to give you Becky Lynch. 36. There was a global pandemic. We still got Drew. And then Roman Reigns comes. 37. Roman. 38. Roman. 39. Roman. And we have gotten so used to this idea that you know what WrestleMania means. It means Roman Reigns kills your dreams. And there has never been a character in the history of the WWE that consistently, over the course of years, just destroys people's dreams. And you go, well, you can't just have a bad guy beat all the good guys. What's going to happen to business? It'll go through the roof. Look at the business. It's never been hotter. There has never been more money being pumped into the WWE. And what happens every year at WrestleMania? Roman Reigns beats your favorite wrestler. That's what happens every year at WrestleMania. And it's happened so many years in a row now, 37, 38, 39, that we get to 40. And it's no longer a given. It has stopped being a given. 39 was officially the end. Because 37, when Roman stacked Bryan and Edge, you're like, oh my God, this is something different. 38, Roman beats Brock. And it's like, yeah, because Brock was already a made guy. Brock was already a part-time guy. You weren't looking at Brock to be the guy that conquered Roman Reigns. You were realizing you were seeing Brock as this ultimate beast for Roman to conquer and go to the next level. So 38 was not like, no, the bad guy won, but it was still, 39 was like, oh, now we finally have somebody that can end this reign of terror. And it didn't happen. So now, and I think that's where I'm at. Now I'm at this point where I'm like, you know what WrestleMania means. Up until 3 years ago, it was WrestleMania means the good guy wins the title and holds it up, and we all get happy. Now, WrestleMania means that Roman Reigns beats your favorite wrestler, and you keep watching. So what happens if the good guy wins again? What happens if we don't get any turns? We don't get any swerves. We don't get anything. Maybe that's the most satisfying way to go, because everybody's got a theory about what's going to happen at WrestleMania. You could have Rock turn on Roman. You could have Roman turn on Rock. You could have Seth turn on Cody. You could have Cody turn on Seth. Or Drew McIntyre could beat Seth Rollins. Cody Rhodes could defeat Roman Reigns. At WrestleMania, Seth Rollins and Cody could embrace. The close of WrestleMania could be Seth and Cody standing in the ring together with the beaten bloodline as they go to restructure. And then we go on to whatever it is, Cody versus Seth. You know, if you want to turn Seth heel, maybe the night after WrestleMania, whatever you want to do. Or you could go the other way. You could go the way that we've been going for quite some time now, which is we go, this has to be it. Everything's lined up. I almost feel like now, my original thing was Cody and Seth definitely win night one. But now, I feel like Cody and Seth have to lose night one. Because either Cody and Seth lose night one and then Cody can win triumphantly. If Cody's going to win the championship, you can't have them win the tag match. That is ridiculous. Cody can't win both matches. Max he can win is one. But either way, you want the vibe going into WrestleMania Sunday to be, I don't know if Cody is definitely going to win, but I really think and hope that he can. And if Cody's walking in under bloodline rules, then there is this feeling that he might win. And here are the two scenarios. If Cody walks in under bloodline rules and wins, you have the scenario I just painted for you. It's the ultimate hero story. If Cody walks into WrestleMania Sunday under bloodline rules and loses, then oh my God, they're going to be throwing batteries at Roman Reigns and The Rock. People are going to be furious. I'll tell you this, Cody is such a strong character and is doing so well in the position that he's in. I promise you, he'll be fine either way. Cody beating Roman, of course he'll be fine. He'll be the champion. Cody losing to Roman, he'll be just fine the same way he was last year. He'll probably just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's going to be the story of Cody Rhodes. There's no stopping this dude. No loss is going to stop Cody Rhodes' momentum. It's just not going to happen. So I'm trying to figure out like what scenario I want to happen the most. I still can't see Roman losing the title. And maybe it's just because maybe I can never see Roman losing the title. Maybe, you know, if I'm telling you I can't see Roman, I couldn't see Roman losing the title last year. He didn't lose the title. I can't see Roman losing the title this year. Do I see Roman losing the title next year? I don't ever see Roman losing the title. It is so, isn't it amazing? Like, maybe I'm just afraid of change because Roman losing the title would change absolutely everything. What does that title even mean without Roman Reigns? That title has been raised to such a high degree and is put on such an absurdly high pedestal that what does it even look like when anybody else in the universe is holding the undisputed WWE Universal Championship? In the modern era, there hasn't been anything close, nothing close to Roman Reigns. And even when you go back, way back, and start to look at people who had comparable runs, Bruno Sammartino, a good guy. Bob Backlund, a good guy. Hulk Hogan, a good guy. I mean, Even the when he was getting towards 1,000 days, it was all these champions have been baby faces. There's never been a villain champion that just holds the title. I mean, there was a period of time where villain champions were really just used to pass from one champion to the next. Whether it was getting the title off Bruno Sammartino or getting the title off Bob Backlund. You know, it was Bob Backlund champion for 4 years and change. Iron Sheik champion for a couple of months. Hogan champion for almost 4 years. And that's the way it went. Imagine if the Iron Sheik held the title from when he won it until WrestleMania 4 when Hogan lost it. Like, that's crazy to think about. And that's where we're at. And that's what makes this WrestleMania season so incredible. Part of me wants Roman Reigns to lose the title just because I want to see what WWE looks like when Roman Reigns isn't the champion anymore. WWE is as one long story. That story has been altered forever because of Roman's run as champion, and now it can never be the same. It's immediately different. So I'm anxious to see. I mean, look, there is a version because everybody's waiting for The Rock to turn on Roman Reigns. And I think that's because people are really enjoying The Rock's character. But there is a version of this where Roman loses the title. Because if you look at the way these segments have gone, while Roman has been acknowledged, and while Roman has been in support of The Rock, and they talk about being family and everything, The Rock is the one taking charge. And it's the first time in a very long time that Roman Reigns is in that ring, and he's not being portrayed as the biggest superstar in that ring or anywhere near that ring. It's The Rock. The Rock is making no secret about the fact that he is everyone's boss. The Rock is the one who's setting up the matches. The Rock is the one who's laying out the stipulations. And that's never happened to Roman Reigns before. This version of Roman Reigns doesn't exist in that. The Rock is so big that even Paul Heyman's loyalties come into question. So what if The Rock isn't always on top? What if on night one, WrestleMania Saturday, Seth Rollins pins The Rock? Well, no, because we need bloodline rules. Maybe The Rock pins it. Well, whatever. What if, coming off of WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes wins the championship from Roman Reigns? And in response to that, Roman Reigns takes out The Rock. What if on the Friday after WrestleMania, instead of The Rock taking out Roman Reigns, instead of The Rock turning on Roman Reigns, instead of The Rock helping Cody Rhodes, because I don't think The Rock should help Cody Rhodes because it would do nothing. Cody Rhodes should be able to beat Roman Reigns on his own, and that's the whole thing that makes Cody Rhodes different than Roman Reigns. If you wanted a champion that wins the title because of interference, I mean, you've got Roman Reigns already. The whole thing that makes Cody different is that he doesn't need the interference. And so then, like the logic, and I think most people's idea, is that Dwayne The Rock Johnson blames Roman Reigns for what he did to their family and the fact that he lost that title. And if Roman Reigns isn't the champion, well, he's useless. He's useless to the Maivia Anoa'i family. And so he gets rid of him, right? I think a lot of people see it possibly happening that way. What if Roman Reigns, in a rage, decides that it was The Rock's fault that all of this happened? That everything has been a downward spiral since The Rock showed up. That when The Rock showed up, he went face-to-face with Roman Reigns, completely making this whole WrestleMania thing convoluted. The tag team match was The Rock's idea. The stipulation was The Rock's idea. All of this was The Rock's idea. So if Roman Reigns loses to Cody, what if it's The Rock's fault? And Roman Reigns takes out The Rock. And that's how we get The Rock off of TV for a while. And maybe Roman Reigns then decides to go away for a while too. And then Roman comes back first to do whatever he's got to do. And then The Rock comes back to hunt Roman Reigns. And that way, by the time you get to Rock Roman Reigns, even if Roman has lost the title at WrestleMania 40, The Rock is now the babyface and Roman Reigns is the heel. I still think eventually you've got Roman as a babyface. But I also think there's a version of this where, especially if Roman is going to go away for a while, if he were to lose at WrestleMania, I think there's a version of this where you could, because people love The Rock. They're always going to love The Rock. The only reason they started booing him was because they were promised Cody Rhodes. So maybe what you do is you have Roman Reigns take out The Rock. And then you have Roman leave for a while. He comes back. And then The Rock returns to get his vengeance on Roman Reigns. So when you get to The Rock versus Roman Reigns, be it at one of the big shows throughout the year or be it at WrestleMania 41, it's about The Rock getting revenge on Roman Reigns, and The Rock is a babyface. Just a thought. A lot of different ways that it could go. It's a big, big time. Hall of Fame, which a week ago, we didn't know any names, and now we've got 3 big inductees going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. And it's really interesting when you look at these inductees, because if you go back to the interview that I did with Adam Copeland, the artist formerly known as Edge, here on this show at the beginning of the year, I think is when it came out. The first interview that came out in 2024 for this show. I asked him the difference between working with Vince, Hunter, and Tony Khan. And he basically talked about the fact that people like Hunter and Tony Khan are wrestling fans. And that's been said about Triple H in the past, that Triple H grew up a wrestling fan. Triple H maintained his wrestling fandom. A lot of the stuff that he does, and you could see that even going back to like NXT Black and Gold, when it was just his hands on the product, he was just trying to make a really awesome wrestling show that wrestling fans would love. And the truth is that when you make a really awesome wrestling show that wrestling fans love, there are so many people on this planet that inside their soul, this little kernel, they're a secret hidden wrestling fan. But not a big enough wrestling fan that they'll watch bad wrestling. There's only a select few of us that will watch bad wrestling. I mean, they're like a dormant wrestling fan. This explains the Attitude Era, why that boom existed, because when wrestling is amazing, everybody becomes a wrestling fan. And so all you have to do as a wrestling fan is try to make wrestling the most appealing thing you can for you, and then watch as everybody circles. And I think that's what you've got with Triple H. You know, people were like, Sam, it appears that this year's Hall of Fame class is being done specifically for you. To an extent, yes, but not me as an individual. Me as the prototypical hardcore wrestling fan. You know why? Because it's being done by a wrestling fan. That's why when you look at women who are not in the WWE Hall of Fame that should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, who goes in to the WWE Hall of Fame this year? Bull Nakano, obviously. And I appreciated how many of you tagged me on social, knowing what a big fan I am, a big fan I've been for years, how much I've tried to bring her up on this podcast, on the Ultimate Show on Peacock, everywhere that I go. I try to show some love to Bull Nakano. As a matter of fact, my Labradoodle, who has been featured in some of the behind-the-scenes videos for some of the interviews that we've done here in the Not Sam studio, her name is Lila Garrity. She is named after a character from Friday Night Lights. The fact is, that was not the first pick for her name. It got vetoed by another member of my household, who I won't mention their name because I don't want to embarrass my wife. But I was fighting hard to name that dog Bull Nakano. That was, 7-8 years ago. All I wanted to do was name that dog Bull Nakano. And it was turned down, vehemently. Because I fought. I didn't win that fight. We had a cat before that. The cat's name was Bruiser Brody. You know, maybe I blew my load. She wasn't going to give me 2. What can I tell you? And I didn't get the name. But that's just to tell you how much affection I have for this person. And I know that you guys know how much I love Bull Nakano. I did a whole emergency podcast just talking about Bull, a little bit about her career, but why she's so important and why she belongs in the Hall of Fame and who she is and why I'm so excited. On Thursday or I want to say maybe Friday. On Friday, the WWE announced that the U.S. Express, Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham were going in to the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, a lot of people, of course, putting 2 and 2 together. Mike Rotunda, who also played Erwin R. Shyster in the WWE, the father of the late, great Bray Wyatt. Barry Windham, the brother-in-law of Mike Rotunda, so the uncle to Bray Wyatt, and his namesake, Wyndham Rotunda, is Bray Wyatt's real name. He's named after the great Barry Windham. A lot of people, and it may be announced by the time that you're watching this, if it's going to be announced, thinking that this could mean that we're going to see a posthumous induction for Bray Wyatt, which I hope that is what it means. But regardless of that, they do deserve Hall of Fame recognition due to the U.S. Express. Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham, I mean, just as individuals, both deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Of course, Barry Windham actually already is in the Hall of Fame. Barry Windham went into the Hall of Fame with the 4 Horsemen. But that was the 4 Horsemen going in as a group. So now I guess Barry is the second of the Horsemen to get a second induction. Because Ric Flair went in by himself and he went in with the Horsemen. So now Barry Windham's going in with the Horsemen, or went in with the Horsemen. Now he's going in with the U.S. Express. So the biggest match that the U.S. Express had, what they're probably known best for, is defending the WWE Tag Team Championship against the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov at WrestleMania 1. Now, there was a lot put into the U.S. Express. I think that the WWE was very, very high on Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham at the time. Although they called him Mike Rotundo when he was in the WWE, but, you know. And I think that because when you think about it, WrestleMania is not that far removed from Hulk Hogan winning the championship and being anointed as the top guy. And who did he beat for the championship? The Iron Sheik. So what's the next big thing that the Iron Sheik is going to do? What's his representation at WrestleMania? Well, we're going to take one of our next big acts, the U.S. Express, and have them defend the tag team championships against this foreign menace team of Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. But that's not the only connection that the U.S. Express has to Hulk Hogan. Not only did they get the rivalry with the Iron Sheik coming right off the Hulk Hogan rivalry, but one of the most iconic wrestling theme songs of all time, I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. Rick Derringer, Real American. Hulk Hogan became very well known for it. WrestleMania 2 through WrestleMania 9. It rang through the speakers as he came to the ring. WrestleMania 2, that's because the original act, like Kurt Angle's theme song, is very, very famous for Kurt Angle. And to the point that people sing along with it. You suck, you suck. But that was not originally Kurt Angle's song. The Patriot Del Wilkes came out to that music. That was the Patriots' music. And then they just decided to reuse it and give it to Kurt Angle when Kurt Angle started with the WWE. Real American was not Hulk Hogan's music originally. That music was reused. They gave it to Hulk Hogan. Real American was actually the music that the U.S. Express came to the ring to. So who knows? Maybe I hope they play that although it would be very confusing, I think, to a lot of people watching if they play that music for them as they come out. But maybe they should. I think they should. They lost the tag team championship, by the way, to Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik at WrestleMania 1, but they were able to win it back a few months later. And Barry Windham, them as a tag team would be short-lived. They were managed by a babyface Captain Lou Albano. You know, when Cyndi Lauper came on board, Captain Lou around that time decided to go babyface, and he managed a few acts. You know, I mean, most of his work was as a heel, but he managed a few babyface acts. The British Bulldogs. He was a big Andre the Giant guy. He was a big Hogan guy, and he was also the manager of the U.S. Express. But after WrestleMania, around 1985, 1986, the two of them would end up going home. And as Barry Windham's told the story, Mike would end up going back, and Barry did not. And so Mike ended up getting paired up with Dan Spivey to form, some people called it the American Express, some people called it the U.S. Express 2, some people just called it the U.S. Express. It was basically the same gimmick, except Dan Spivey was in the Barry Windham spot, which is really interesting. Wow, I just thought of this because Dan Spivey would go on to, 10 years later, 9 years later, to play Waylon Mercy in the WWE. Waylon Mercy, a character who Bray Wyatt borrowed quite a bit from for the original incarnation of Bray Wyatt, named Mercy the Buzzard after Waylon Mercy. Bray Wyatt, of course, the son of Dan Spivey's tag team partner in the U.S. Express, Mike Rotunda. That's awesome. That's why I love stuff like that. I loved it. I love it. So I'm very happy about the U.S. Express going in. Go back to that WrestleMania 1 match and go through. There's a bunch of good tag team matches, and you can see people loved him, man. People loved him at the time. But of course, I'm saving the big news for last. Monday, we found out that in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Paul Heyman is going in to the WWE Hall of Fame. Paul Heyman may be one of the most deserving people that could possibly go into the WWE Hall of Fame. As a matter of fact, Paul Heyman, there are certain acts that go into the Hall of Fame multiple times. Booker T has a couple of rings. Harlem Heat and Booker T. Sean Waltman has a couple of rings for the NWO and for DX. I'd give him a third one going in as the 1-2-3 kid, personally. Very impactful guy. Ric Flair, as I said, has a couple of rings. There are multiple people that have a couple of rings. But nobody has a couple of rings based on their own singular work, meaning they have a ring as themselves, and then they have a ring as part of a group or tag team that they were in. Paul Heyman is the only person I can think of that I could make an argument that he deserves multiple inductions into the WWE Hall of Fame just for the work that he's done. If you think about the career that Paul Heyman has had, he starts young. And as a matter of fact, as I was looking at YouTube stuff about the U.S. Express, I fell into a rabbit hole and I was looking up like babyface Lou Albano stuff because I so associate him with that heel version of himself. And as I'm looking up babyface Captain Lou Albano, I find this clip from like the late 80s. It's like a Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and Bill Apter is the guy doing the interview, and it's Captain Lou Albano and a young Paul Heyman going back and forth. And Paul Heyman is telling Lou Albano, I was a member of I was the one who started your fan club because I admired you. But if you look at what I've done in 6 months, nobody's done what I've done. And it's amazing seeing these two go back and forth, knowing what we're going to know. From the beginning, Paul Heyman was amazing, right? He starts as a photographer, just getting his way in the door. The stories have been told. He ends up being a manager. He ends up working as a heel commentator with Lance Russell. He ends up doing all this stuff and really gets that national spotlight in 1991, 1992 with WCW, where he managed, he managed Mean Mark Callis. The Undertaker was a Paul Heyman guy. He managed the Samoan SWAT team. That's the beginning of the bloodline. Everything counts. But the act that he's most famous for managing is, of course, his faction, the Dangerous Alliance. Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, Rick Rude, Steve Austin. It was, at the time, WCW's top heel group. It was the group of people designed to be the enemies for Sting at Sting's all-time peak. And it was Paul Heyman, who also had Medusa by his side, that made you believe that the Dangerous Alliance were the threat that were worth taking seriously in this world where Sting had been able to conquer so many. Paul goes on. He leaves WCW, and he starts first working with Todd Gordon and then on his own, taking Eastern Championship Wrestling and turning it in to Extreme Championship Wrestling in 1995, 1996. As a high schooler, Paul Heyman changed the way I looked at professional wrestling. Paul Heyman, for me, based on the product that he created, changed my perception of what I thought professional wrestling was and could be. And he did something with ECW that still to this day, nobody's really done. You know, when you look at ECW, there are some big names that pop up here and there. Sid jumps in for a cup of coffee. There's footage of Scott Hall showing up here and there. But ultimately, ECW created the entire buzz, this entire legacy, this brand that still to this day is valuable. They still make ECW t-shirts. People still chant ECW in buildings, and boy, will they in Philadelphia. But he did that with a group of talent that prior to ECW, most of the audience hadn't heard of. Even when he was bringing people from the outside in, it would be international stars, right? In America in 95, we didn't have access to have already be familiar with guys like Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera, Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero. Those are the guys that Paul Heyman brought in. And those are the guys that WCW was able to grab. Their entire cruiserweight division, every star, all those guys that I just named, that's literally the top of WCW's cruiserweight division that changed wrestling forever, right? The cruiserweight division, you could make that argument. Yes. Where'd they start in America? ECW. Beyond that, who were the people that are famous for being in ECW? Yeah, you could say, well, Scotty Flamingo was in WCW, and then he was Johnny Polo. He had all his WWE TV time. Yeah. But when you looked at Raven, you didn't see Johnny Polo. You didn't see Scotty Flamingo. And I know, Paul, you had Brian Pillman there for a sec. You had Steve Austin there for a sec. Yes. But who was headlining the pay-per-views, right? You tell me you knew who Mike Awesome was before ECW? I mean, maybe if you were trading tapes, you saw some gladiator matches coming out of Japan, but realistically, that guy was a main event guy because you were convinced that he was a main event guy based on what he was doing in ECW. Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, New Jack, Sandman, Raven, Dudley Boys, Taz. I mean, what? Danny Doring and Roadkill were over. Everybody in that company became a star with no sort of either no prior experience that would make you go, oh yeah, I can't wait to see them, or regardless of their prior experience, because of the characters that they played, because of the stories that they told, and because of what they did in the ring, the fact that they fought their absolute hearts out every single night. And not only is it difficult to this day to find character work and story work like that on the independents, it's hard to find character work and story work like that in the big promotions anywhere. ECW gets cast as this blood and guts promotion, and it was to an extent. But Stevie Richards became a star for the ECW audience, not because of blood and guts, but because you followed that story. You followed the story of Stevie as Raven's lackey. You followed the story of Raven not allowing Stevie to reach his potential. And you got to Barely Legal in April of 1997, and you wanted to see Stevie Richards finally get his moment. An amazing thing. And he wasn't done there, is my point, Paul Heyman. Because after ECW, he goes, and who's the only person who in the very middle of the Attitude Era, we're talking about WrestleMania 17, the peak of the Attitude Era, when Jerry the King Lawler and Jim Ross have become the voices associated with the biggest era in the history of WWE. Who's the only guy that can jump on commentary, be a heel to JR, do it completely differently than Lawler did it, but not miss a beat? Paul Heyman. When WWE does the brand split and they go, Paul Heyman, you're going to be in charge behind the scenes now of SmackDown. What does he do? He innovates again. He changes the way wrestling can be portrayed on a WWE show with the SmackDown 6. He shows you a different side of people like Edge, of Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero. It's incredible when you look at that early SmackDown, what's going on and how ahead of its time it was, and how much that relates to the way American professional wrestling is now. He comes back on screen as an advocate. What does he do? He guides and on camera and off camera shapes the career of an athlete who would have more impact on professional wrestling than so many people over the course of the next 20 years. Brock Lesnar. It's very rare when you call somebody the next big thing that they actually are. But he was. He was there when they changed, when the Undertaker's streak was broken. Paul Heyman was the face that reacted to the streak being broken. And when that streak was broken, it changed wrestling forever, because it truly meant that anything could happen. When CM Punk dropped a pipe bomb, and again, when that streak was broken, wrestling was changed forever. When CM Punk did his pipe bomb promo, it changed wrestling forever. And what did he say in that pipe bomb promo? Yeah, I'm a Paul Heyman guy. Paul was associated with that too. And it created the phrase Paul Heyman guy, which has gone on for years and years and years and years. I'm just covering the bullet points of an incredible career, and I haven't even gotten to the bloodline. I will never forget where I was. When I was sitting at home. It was the pandemic. But I'm just saying, I will always remember the feeling of Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam as a surprise and interfering in the world title match. And then waiting 6 days to figure out what was going on. And seeing that Roman Reigns was being added to the world title match at the pay-per-view a week later. But the key is the pan out. We shook. We shook as a collective wrestling fan base. We should go back and listen to that podcast from years ago when the camera pans out and you get the shot of Paul Heyman sitting next to Roman Reigns. And in that moment, everybody realizes that everything is different forever. And guess what? It was. Because that moment was the beginning of what I was just talking about at the top of this show. And all of it just gravitates around Paul Heyman. An amazing figure and somebody that is so, his whole hand should be full of Hall of Fame rings. I cannot wait to hear the speech that this guy gives. And by the way, he was fired from WWE. Or quit. I don't know the story. He was persona non grata at one point. And what happened? He's undeniable. Undeniable. I cannot wait until a live mic is in the hand of Paul Heyman. And he is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And for the first time ever, his job is not to get a promotion over. His job is not to get a wrestler over. His job is not to get a match over. For the first time ever that Paul Heyman has held a microphone, it's about Paul Heyman and only Paul Heyman. And I can't wait to see what that looks like. It's going to be a blast, dude. Speaking of a blast, I hope you guys are paying attention, because I know that we are definitely my audience here on this podcast leans more to the WWE side of the street than the AEW side of the street. But if you are a wrestling fan on any level, AEW is starting to get on a real roll. And I think it's something that we should really be paying attention to, because it's potentially awesome. Revolution was a fantastic pay-per-view last weekend. Sting's last match, I thought it was done just incredibly. The entrance was so good. His kids dressing up as him coming out, working this whole match. There was drama, theatricality, near falls, the whole thing. Sting conquers. Sting gets to have an amazing last match in Greensboro. But key to that was, not only was Sting's last match great, I think, and it's controversial to say, people don't like certain things, but Darby Allin comes out better for it. Whether you want to believe it or not, you don't have to like Darby Allin to understand that he's extremely popular. That's all I'm saying. People, whether it's you or not, people love Darby Allin. Love him. The Young Bucks are bigger heels because of everything. It's all good. And then I turn on Dynamite this week, and Dynamite was smoking. Every single segment was substantial. Every single segment counted. They completely revamped their graphics. They completely revamped their production. They revamped their entranceway. The whole show looks different. But more importantly, it feels different. It's moving quicker, and every segment was important. There's also news coming out of it. I'm watching this show, and who comes out but Okada? Okada, who as far back as January, it was up in the air as to where he was going to go. We knew he was leaving New Japan, but some thought maybe he was going to come to WWE. It's finally made official that Okada is in AEW. He's all elite, and he is part of the elite. Okada turned heel and is siding with the Young Bucks, which I love, because you could do a thing where you just have Okada come in and be Okada, and everyone's excited to see him, and you just put him in good matches, and that's it. Or you could tell a real story here. You could use him to really push along a narrative. And I think that it's something, I think Okada being added to the Young Bucks is like the elite is a real force again. Like that's a huge trifecta. Plus, you're looking at what this upcoming pay-per-view is going to look like, Dynasty. And you've already got, because we ended with a stare down on Wednesday, you've already got Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson is huge. But potentially, we might be looking at Okada versus Eddie Kingston as well. We are quickly building a pay-per-view that's going to be awesome, and it's not just matches for the sake of matches. It's like excellent matches with some character foundation under it, which is great. But the reason I say it could be going on a roll is because look at the way things are planned, right? You got Revolution, which is Sting's last match and goes off without a hitch. Great pay-per-view. You got the Dynamite after Revolution, which was a really, really good Dynamite, and more importantly, Okada's debut. What happens after that, though? That's how we know we're on a roll. Big business. This week, it's big business with dollar signs in Boston, the much speculated about debut of potentially Mercedes Moné on this show, which is something that people have been waiting to see her again on either AEW or WWE forever now. So the idea that Mercedes Moné may have a live microphone on Wednesday is huge. And then you go, okay, well, if we're on a roll, what happens after big business? What happens after potentially, maybe, rumored to be, Mercedes Moné? We've already got a match booked. for next week, which is March 20th. That's the Toronto Dynamite, where you've got Christian versus Adam Copeland in an I Quit match. Which feels like, an I Quit match is a pretty specific thing. I don't think, we know how Edge feels about Toronto. We know how much Copeland loves Cope. We know how much Cope loves Toronto. It wouldn't be the worst place in the world for him to finally get the victory over Christian, and then they can move on to the next thing. I almost feel like if he's going to do that open challenge thing, and I think he should keep doing it. If he's got the TNT championship, I think it makes it bigger. It makes it like John Cena's U.S. championship. Maybe it's too similar. I don't know, but there's just a lot going on. So the fact that you've got Major Dynamite that we just saw, Major Dynamite coming up, another Major Dynamite after that, a Dynasty pay-per-view that's already being built out in a major way, I just feel like it's raining down. Speaking of Okada, the Rainmaker is raining down wrestling riches upon us, and it's awesome. Speaking of riches, who's getting even richer is WWE. Controversial move this week. It's announced that the Prime bottle is going to be at the center of the wrestling ring. Yes, Prime. Now, in the press release and in Logan Paul's promo, he announced that the Prime bottle would be in the center of the ring mat for every premium live event that WWE did. Now, there's a couple of things that are key there. He said the center, which would lead me to believe that the items around it are for sale. If you look at the UFC's ring mat or cage mat, there's usually one giant logo in the center and then several smaller logos around it. So that, everybody can have a piece of this. Everybody can throw in some dough for the show. It doesn't say that it's going to be there the whole show. The difference between UFC and WWE is that WWE changes ring canvases. First of all, WWE changes ring canvases multiple times a show, every show, and can do it. Like, you can have a ring canvas there for one match and then change it onto the next one. That's what they did this week with the Prime bottle. So I don't know that the logos are going to be there, and it makes more sense financially for WWE to just promise you can sponsor one match. This is what the main event costs to sponsor. This is the same way they've done, like, Ray and Dominic was the Cinnamon Toast Crunch match, that LA Knight won the Slim Jim Battle Royal. Like, I think that we'll probably see more matches being sponsored. And it's pretty sick that they're the only ones that can put logos on the canvas for just one match, as opposed to for the whole show. I know some people are against it, which, I get it. You want your clean canvas. It's the way it's always been since the beginning of time. You want it to look like it's always looked, and it makes sense. But as somebody that's literally bought logo placement on GCW's mat, I go back the last year and a half, the majority of Game Changer wrestling shows, you're going to see a Not Sam logo on their mat. So clearly I'm not against corporate logos being on wrestling mats. But I think that the key here is whether you are for or against it or whatever. I think the only reason to be against it is because you don't want it to be a disruption from the show. You don't want it to be a disruption from what's going on. And I think that that's a fair fear when you look historically. But if you look at what's going on right now, I'm actually very optimistic. The fact that the announcement of the Prime bottle being printed on the center of the wrestling mat was not, hey, fans, everybody cheer. WWE is making more money. Isn't that great? They let Logan Paul announce it. They got the Prime bottle, front and center, but they did it through KSI getting RKO'd on top of the bottle. They had Randy Orton. He sipped it. He said, this is good. This is great. Which, he's not taking a crap on the sponsor, but he is pouring it on the crotch, we'll say, of KSI. So I think that the key is that they healed the thing, that they healed it. You know what I mean? Like they, not that they healed it in the sense that like a wound gets healed, but they made it into part of the story that actually makes sense. And you can do that two ways, right? I think all brands are going to want to be incorporated into these stories. And you could do it in a way that's like the golden egg, which is ridiculous and makes no sense. You could do it in a way where it's like the zombies lumberjack match, which is ridiculous and it makes no sense. Or you could do it like this and actually not only have it make sense, but I would argue that if you look at that opening segment, the sponsored ring mat drove the story. Randy Orton's motivation for RKO and KI was to lay him out dead across the center of that Prime logo. So I thought it was good for Prime, but I thought it was actually good for us too, in the sense that it added to the story. I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts, but I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about the whole thing. You can email me, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. You want to be a part of the podcast, you already know what to do. notsamwrestling@gmail.com is the place to email us. Let's go over some of these emails while we still got some time here. Austin writes in, I know this pitch might be unrealistic because of his health, but Big E is cleared. But if Big E is cleared, what if he gets added as a last-minute addition to the gauntlet to challenge? I mean, you're saying if Big E is cleared right now, would it be good if Big E returned? Yeah, of course it would be. I'm going to put Big E on that Randy Orton list. Like, yeah, it'd be great for Big E to fight Gunther. It'd be great for Big E to fight anybody. I'd love to see Big E coming back. Okay. Matthew writes in, I would like to know if we are going to see any of the following wrestlers at Mania. Liv, Nia, Bianca, Jade, or Naomi. We seem to be running out of time to get serious storyline for a couple of them. Love all the podcasts you're doing for us. Don't forget, last year they did that four-team tag match for women. They did it for men and women. WrestleMania Saturday, I think. Yeah, they did a men's four-way tag. WrestleMania Sunday, they did a women's four-way tag. So they could do a women's four-way tag. They could do a women's battle royal. You know, there's a bunch of stuff they could do. But also, while we are running out of time, there's still a few TVs left, and there's, meaning TV shows left, and there's a lot of room on the WrestleMania card right now. As for what's actually been announced, not much, right? You've got your two main events. You've got Bayley and Io. You've got Becky and Rhea. You got Drew and Seth. That's 5 matches across 2 nights. We got a lot more matches still yet to be announced. Let's see. Alex writes in. Oh, Alex from Blackpool. Anyway, with all the focus on the Tribal Chief and Mommy, people are forgetting the true story of WrestleMania. Talk of the internet suggests everyone's favorite R-Truth will team with The Miz versus Judgment Day to win the belts, but we're missing a trick. It's not the time and the place for R-Truth to team with his childhood hero. Oh, is it not? Is this not the time and place for R-Truth to team with his childhood hero, John Cena, on the grandest stage of them all? JD Funko could take out The Miz on the instructions of Priest, only for Truth to want to take them out on his own all the way to... I mean, it would just be weird for Truth and John Cena to team up, since Truth literally has 3 other tag team partners right now in Regeneration X. I think if Truth were on his own, or if he were putting a little bit more emphasis on the John Cena thing, then maybe. Might be a more appropriate thing for, like, John Cena to just do a run-in to help R-Truth. That could be fun. But I mean, I like what you're saying. I think that there's something there. I just think that a little bit more needs to be built into it for that to happen. Let's go to Kevin. Great show. I'm 43 and I've listened to your stuff for years. I have a finish for Mania I want your opinion on. Okay. Drew screws Seth in the tag match. Seth takes the pin. Drew beats Seth, maybe with the help of Solo to screw Seth. Okay. Cody's nowhere to be found. Okay. That sets up bloodline rules, right? Seth keeps Jimmy and Solo at bay. Okay. But at the finish, The Rock tries to help Roman, but they mess it up, and Cody capitalizes on it. The Rock is on the apron, and Roman hits the ropes, and boom. Anyway, Cody wins the title. This leaves tension in the bloodline, but the blame game happens. But Seth is pissed that Cody wasn't there to help him, and he tried to help Cody, setting up down the road Cody versus Seth for the title. And then we get to SummerSlam, and The Rock challenges Cody. Dude, are you... Not sure how to finish that, but Roman could somehow cost The Rock that match. So you're just like an interference guy. You just love matches with interference. You just want this whole like weird mix of all 5 of these guys to just be interfering in each other's matches from now until August. Because somehow we've gotten all the way to SummerSlam. Okay. We're going past SummerSlam. SummerSlam, Rock, not sure how to finish that, but Roman could somehow cost Rock that match with necessarily interfering another accident. Meanwhile, on Raw, Drew is dealing with Punk and Gunther, but Roman can take the title back at Survivor Series, setting up a Rumble or Mania 41 match with Roman. Roman can take the title back to set the match up with Roman. It's long, bro. Here's what I would do. Proofread your emails. Read your email back to yourself and see if, and then and I don't know what to do with Damian, but Drew, Damian, Gunther match at SummerSlam would be awesome. Yeah, but that would be after Money in the Bank. You read your emails back to yourselves and see if you're convinced by your own stuff. Before you send it to me, read it back to yourself and see if you're convinced by it. And then if you are, then you should consider sending it in. Alan writes in the past, if a wrestler got hurt while holding a title, they would be forced to vacate said title because they couldn't defend the title. While I respect why Joe Roman, don't call him Joe. Joe/Roman, don't call him Joe like you know him, wants to wrestle part-time, he should have been forced to vacate the title long ago. For you to be a fan of his, it requires diehard fandom. What are you talking about? I can't help but wonder if your diehard fandom is influencing these storylines you're predicting. While I agree it's too straightforward for it to play out how it appears it will, Cody Seth won't win, and then Cody wins the title. I think Cody and Seth lose the tag match, but then against all odds, Cody does walk out with the title. I wonder what prevents you from thinking that way as opposed to the crap you've thrown out that keeps your boy in power. I watched the show, so I watched the product. You know that show that keeps making more and more money, keeps putting more and more people in seats, keeps getting more and more eyeballs on pay-per-views, keeps getting more and more people to buy merchandise. That's the show that Roman's been the champion of. And then why don't you think that Roman's going to lose the title at WrestleMania 40? I guess because he didn't lose the title at WrestleMania 39 or 38 or 37 or any shows in between. Might be why. Boy, guys, we got to step it up a notch. Kevin writes in, you know what this Cody, Seth, Roman, Rock storyline reminds me of, and it's a bit biased because it's my second pay-per-view ever, Survivor Series 98. Okay, I'm listening. First round of the tournament to decide world champion. Rock faces Big Boss Man. Rock beats him with a roll-up. Right, I remember. I think the second round, I remember. Rock versus Shamrock. Boss Man interferes, throws the nightstick in. Rock intercepts it. Yep. By the end of the night, what happened? Rock gets Mankind in the sharpshooter, and Vince says to ring the bell. The Rock turns heel. I remember. I was there. I mean, I wasn't there, but I was watching that pay-per-view live. You look back at the first and second round of matches and go, oh, that was planned. That's how I'm starting to feel here. The Rock was part of that 98 storyline, except now he takes the role of Vinnie Mac. Hear me out. Okay, all right. So the foundation is that The Rock was set up to look like, as the people's champion, that the entire tournament was based on him, was set up for him to lose. He had to fight the Boss Man. He had to fight Shamrock. The Mankind had an easy way through because they said Mankind was Vince McMahon's pick. The swerve was at the end. Now, look, wasn't the best swerve ever because were Shamrock and Boss Man in on it? Were the boys getting worked? But let's go. So the version of that foundation to WrestleMania is Rollins takes the pin to Rock or Roman, doesn't matter. Okay. Rock or Bloodline go interfere with Rollins versus McIntyre, seemingly to help Mac, but something goes wrong, like Rock versus Shamrock when Rollins retains. Okay, Bloodline rules, Cody versus Roman, all chaos occurs. Seth turns on Cody to either help Roman retain or Cody somehow gets over that hump to make his victory more magical. Well, no. Here's the thing. Seth should not join the Bloodline. If Seth turns on Cody, it's because Seth hates Cody more than he hates the Bloodline. Seth and the Bloodline are not aligned, in my view. I don't think that makes a lick of sense. The Rock clearly does not like Seth Rollins. He calls him a clown emoji. Seth said he was having a midlife crisis. The idea that, oh, we were in on this the whole time is like, what? Okay. I could see Seth turning on Cody, but for Seth's reasons, not for Bloodline reasons. Why would Seth be in the Bloodline? CJ writes in, Sam, congrats on the recent addition to the family. Hope you're all doing well. I recently just started training at a local school, and I'm having a blast. The amount of coordination and thought that goes into just running the ropes correctly is absurd. I love that. But let's get down to brass tacks. I have a pitch for a women's stable that I want your take on. Okay. After Tiffany defeats Natalya in a match, because Delulu is the Salulu, Tiff approaches Natty. She's impressed with how Natty is able to go in the ring, but not surprised. She's always known that the Divas do it best. She wants to bring in a new Divas era, and she wants Natty to help her do it. They recruit Chelsea Green and Maxine Dupree. They form a new stable, Divolution. Natty is Flair, Tiffany is Triple H, and so on and so forth. Tiff could even bring back the butterfly strap after winning the belt off Rhea at SummerSlam, which we all know is happening. Well, that's a funny thought. I have to tell you, I don't mind Devolution. Devolution is a mystery. I don't mind Devolution. Especially with Tiff as the Triple H. And that's a little weird because, theoretically, it should be Chelsea Green as the Triple H and Maxine and Tiff as Randy and Batista. But I mean, you're right. When you're looking at that faction just in terms of star power and the way people will respond, Tiff would be the Triple H in that group. And I guess Maxine's Randy and Chelsea is... No, Maxine's probably Batista and Chelsea's Randy. I'm not against it, CJ. I think there's something there. I'll give that to you. I think there is something there. Bobby writes in, thanks for being the #1 podcast for wrestling. You're welcome. It's really my pleasure. I used to watch the product in the 90s, both WWE and WCW, stopped for years and recently got back into it in the last 3 years, and now my sons love it too, so my son loves it as well. And they thought it was super cool when you read my email a few episodes ago. My question is, do you think Ripley can actually stay a real babyface? I think she will be a hybrid. Well, no, because a babyface is not just one thing. A babyface is ultimately, if you are getting cheered fairly universally and the people that you are fighting are getting booed, you are a babyface. And that is the role that Rhea Ripley will find herself in. I don't think that she'll have to change anything that she's doing. I don't think that she'll change her character. But I think her character will just naturally become a babyface. Nick writes in, love the show, got a theory, wanted your opinion. With The Rock saying to Cody that if he doesn't win at WrestleMania, it's his last chance, did The Rock basically confirm that Cody's winning? No. Usually in this last chance scenario, it's a win-win situation, with the only other time someone losing is Batista at Vengeance 2007. Well, no, Lex Luger lost. Well, he won by countout. His last chance was with Yokozuna at SummerSlam 93. If Cody were to lose, the only way he could get another shot is either winning at Money in the Bank or maybe Triple H gets it. No, because, look, I think, no, The Rock, that doesn't spoil anything. It adds drama. We've seen people lose last chance matches. We know the Money in the Bank exists. We know Cody Rhodes is very good at winning Royal Rumble matches. And it hasn't really been cemented as to whether or not that's going to be his last shot at the title or his last shot at Roman Reigns with the title. And that's a giant distinction. So, no, I think there's still a million ways that Cody could get there. And the idea, and it's even more heartbreaking for Cody if he loses, because he's really lost now. And now he's really got to work to come back. The idea that Cody loses in his last opportunity is equally, if not more likely than Cody winning, in my opinion. Raj writes in, I prefer the old Hall of Fame format, more intimate venues, longer speeches, pre-shows where you got to see the super. What are you talking about? What intimate venues? It was one of my favorite parts of WrestleMania week. One of my favorite inductees was the Iron Sheik. He had the room cracking up. What do you think of the new format, having it post SmackDown in the same arena? Who is one of your favorite inductees? Probably Scott Hall is my favorite inductee. Kept it nice and tight. No, I mean, they're not. I don't even know if they ever aired it on television proper live when it was in like a banquet hall. But up until, I mean, for years it's been in arenas. 10 years it's been in arenas. You know, I mean, I know for sure at 29 it was in Madison Square Garden. So the change is not from intimate venues to arenas. The change is from putting it in an arena as its own show to putting it on after SmackDown. And honestly, when you look at it, when do you want to do it? If you don't want to do it after SmackDown, number one, you got to sell tickets to it. That means it's got to be its own standalone attraction. And number two, when do you want to do it? WrestleMania is 2 nights. We're at the point, we got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday all booked. Stand and Deliver has to be done on Saturday afternoon just to get it in. So, you want to do the Hall of Fame on Thursday? Can you book out an arena on Thursday to do the Hall of Fame? If you want, I like it better this way because it keeps it down to like, whatever, 90 minutes or something like that. The Hall of Fame was getting out of control there. Like the Hall of Fame was getting out of control where these shows would go on into the night. And the problem was that you would have scenarios like when Goldberg went in, you saw pictures, like aerial shots of what the floor looked like. And when we had the arena and you could just go on all night, what would end up happening is the headliners wouldn't be able to go up and give their speech until like 3.5 hours, 4 hours into the night, and half the arena's empty by then. You don't want that. Last year, I loved the idea of giving people, 10 minutes or so, 10, 12 minutes, do a speech, and then give the headliner as much time as they need. I loved last year, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. The Undertaker can take an hour. This year, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Paul Heyman takes an hour. I think that's a good thing. Let's go to, this might be the last one. Let's go to Sal. Sal writes in, how much legs do you think the feud between Judgment Day and Imperium has, and what do you make of it? I like that it didn't fit the normal face versus heel formula. I like that. Gunther was cheered versus Dom. On the other hand, by the end of the tag match, Balor and Priest were being cheered. I don't think JD McDonough wins the gauntlet match, but you think Priest cashes in on Gunther. I think it would be the wrong move, especially after Theory's failed cash-in. Bonus question, if I may. I know you touched upon this with your Rock slap instant reaction, but how many Rock matches will we get, and how many can he lose without being made to look weak? Well, he can't lose a ton, you want him to, he's there to win matches. So he can't lose a ton. That's for sure. I don't think we'll get many, but I'd say he'd win the majority. I don't think that this Imperium Judgment Day rivalry is, I don't think that it's necessarily long-term. I could see Gunther getting cashed in on like at WrestleMania, or Sammy might get cashed in on. I could also see Sammy getting his moment. He beats Gunther and then Damian Priest cashes in and beats Sammy. I could see that happening. I think Gunther's going to be a babyface very soon. So I don't necessarily see this Judgment Day Imperium thing going much past that. I'll do one more because I like the subject. Subject is, what's the haps? It's from Jimmy O. Sam, love your shit. Can we just take a moment to recognize Randy Orton's power slams? Everything he does is great, but that power slam is just pure beauty. Anyway, thank you for being you and hope the fam is doing great. That's a good email. Yes. That quick snap slam that just turns around. I love it. And then Andy writes in, I'd love to get your take on Jake Paul Tyson fight. Personally, I don't think there's any chance in hell that it will be legit. If it does, how does it benefit Tyson at all aside from payday? Well, I would tell you to go over to the Not Sam YouTube channel. I do a non-wrestling show where wrestling does to come up from time to time called Sam Roberts Now. And on Friday night, I did a whole segment on the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight and kind of broke it all down. So if that's something that you're into, if that's something you'd like to see, I would go check that out. It's been great, everybody. Have a good one. We'll talk soon. Don't forget, Philly, Wednesday, the 3rd of April. Be there. Get your tickets to the Helium Comedy Club at notsam.com. Like this on YouTube. Leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, subscribe. 5-star rating. Leave a review. We'll see you guys soon. Have a good one, everybody.